The stars had been silent for too long. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Atlantic, watching the endless void through the main viewport. His ship was humanity's pride, the first vessel capable of traveling between star systems in weeks rather than centuries. The Atlantic had been flying for 3 months now, carrying Earth's hopes and dreams toward the center of the galaxy. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at the communications station, her fingers dancing across the controls. She had been sending the same message for weeks on every frequency they could generate. The message was simple. This is humanity. We come in peace. Please respond. But the galaxy remained quiet. Still nothing, Captain, Amy reported, turning in her chair. Her voice carried the same disappointment that had been growing stronger each day. I've tried everything. Radio waves, subspace signals, even light patterns. If anyone is out there, they're not talking to us. Jake nodded slowly. He had expected this might happen, but hope had kept him believing that first contact would be different. The movies and books back on Earth always showed aliens eager to meet new species. Reality, it seemed, was far less welcoming. Dr. Kevin Blake looked up from his science station. The xenobiologist had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, studying every theory about alien life. His equipment had detected signs of advanced technology throughout this region of space. But no one would acknowledge their presence, Captain. I'm picking up more of those energy signatures, Kevin said, pointing to his screen. The patterns are definitely artificial. Someone built whatever is generating these signals, and they're using technology we don't understand yet. The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Everyone knew what those signals meant. There were other intelligent species out here, probably many of them. They had built cities, ships, and civilizations among the stars, but for some reason they wanted nothing to do with humanity. Jake walked over to Kevin's station and studied the readings. The energy patterns were complex and organized, clearly the work of advanced minds. Some of the signatures were moving, suggesting massive ships or space stations. Others remained stationary, possibly indicating planets or space habitats. How many different sources are you tracking? Jake asked. Kevin checked his instruments. At least 12 distinct energy signatures, each with different characteristics. I think we're looking at 12 different species or civilizations. They're all more advanced than us, Captain. Some of these readings suggest technology that's centuries ahead of anything we have on Earth. Amy suddenly straightened at her station. Captain, I'm intercepting communications between some of these sources. The signals are encrypted, but I can tell they're talking to each other. They have some kind of network or alliance. Jake felt his heart race. This was the proof they needed. The galaxy wasn't empty or silent. It was full of intelligent life that had chosen to ignore humanity completely. Can you decode any of it? He asked. Amy shook her head. The encryption is too advanced and the languages are completely alien. But Captain, there's something else. I've detected our radio signals in their transmissions. They're talking about us. The implications hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. These alien civilizations knew about humanity. They had received Earth's messages and were discussing them among themselves. But they had decided not to respond. Jake clenched his fists. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, imagining all the wonderful things they would learn from older, wiser civilizations. Instead, they were being treated like children who weren't worth talking to. Keep monitoring their communications, Jake ordered. I want to know everything we can learn about these species. Over the next several days, Amy worked tirelessly to gather intelligence from the alien transmissions. She couldn't understand their languages, but she could analyze the patterns and frequencies. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. The 12 alien civilizations were part of something called the Galactic Council. They had rules about which species were worthy of contact and which should be ignored. According to their standards, humanity was too primitive to deserve attention. Kevin discovered more troubling information in his scans. Several star systems showed signs of former civilizations that had simply vanished. Planets that once supported advanced life were now empty, or reduced to primitive conditions. Captain, Kevin said during one of their daily briefings, I think I know what happens to species that don't meet their standards. They either get ignored until they give up and stay in their home systems, or they get eliminated if they become too persistent. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Earth had been broadcasting into space for over 2 centuries. Every human transmission had been received and cataloged by the Galactic Council. Humanity's location, technology level, and capabilities were all known to these alien powers. Admiral Lisa Parker's voice crackled through the subspace communicator from Luna Station, back in Earth's solar system. "Captain Morrison, we've been analyzing your reports. The situation is more serious than we initially believed." Jake activated the secure channel. "Admiral, what are your orders?" "We're accelerating the fleet construction program," Lisa replied. "If these aliens think they can ignore us or threaten us, they're about to learn otherwise. Continue your mission, but be prepared for hostile contact." Amy looked up from her station with alarm. "Captain, I'm detecting new movement in the alien ships. Several large vessels are changing course toward our position." Jake immediately ordered battle stations. The Atlantic wasn't designed as a warship, but it carried defensive weapons and the most advanced railgun system humanity had ever built. If the aliens wanted a fight, they would get one. The approaching ships were massive, each one 3 times the size of the Atlantic. Their hulls gleamed with unknown metals, and energy readings suggested powerful weapons and defensive systems. These were the vessels of a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. But as Jake watched the alien fleet approach, he felt no fear. Humanity had faced impossible odds before and survived. They had fought wars, explored dangerous frontiers, and solved problems that seemed unsolvable. If the Galactic Council thought humans would simply retreat to Earth and hide, they were about to discover how wrong they were. The galaxy had been silent for too long. It was time for humanity to make some noise. High Counselor Zethkar reviewed the intelligence reports with the same boredom he felt when examining any new species. The creatures called themselves humans, and like so many others before them, they believed they deserved attention from their betters. The Valyrian Empire had been part of the Galactic Council for over 2,000 years. In that time, Zethkar had seen hundreds of primitive species make their first stumbling attempts at interstellar travel. Most gave up when they realized they were being ignored. A few required more direct encouragement to return to their homeworlds. "Tell me about their technology," Zethkar said to his intelligence officer. Prime Analyst Korthel activated the holographic display. Images of human ships and weapons appeared in the air between them. Primitive chemical rockets for propulsion, basic fusion reactors for power, and projectile weapons that fire small metal objects using chemical explosives. Their most advanced ship appears to be this vessel they call the Atlantic. Zethkar studied the human ship with mild interest. It was crude compared to Council vessels, with thick armor plating and angular design. The humans clearly hadn't discovered energy shielding or plasma weapons yet. "What about their military capabilities?" Zethkar asked. "Negligible," Korthel replied. "Their weapons cannot penetrate our basic defensive screens. Their ships move slowly compared to Council vessels. They pose no threat to any member species." The High Counselor nodded. This was exactly what he had expected. The humans were just another young species that would need to learn their place in the galaxy. Meanwhile, Commander Steve Rogers stood on the bridge of the UES Boston, reading the new orders that had just arrived from Earth. Admiral Parker wanted a demonstration of human capabilities, something that would get the aliens' attention. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, his tactical officer, had identified the perfect target, an abandoned mining station on the edge of the system, heavily shielded and armored. According to their scans, it was protected by the same type of energy barriers used on active Council facilities. "Are you sure about this, Colonel?" Steve asked. Maria checked her readings again. "The station is definitely abandoned, sir. No life signs, no active communications, but those shields are still running on automatic power. It's perfect for testing our railguns against their defensive technology." Steve nodded. The Boston was equipped with humanity's latest railgun system, capable of accelerating tungsten projectiles to incredible speeds. Earth's engineers had spent decades perfecting the technology, but they had never tested it against alien defenses. "All stations prepare for weapons test," Steve announced over the ship's communication system. "Target the abandoned mining facility. We're going to show these aliens what human engineering can do." The Boston's main railgun began charging. The weapon was massive, running almost the entire length of the ship. Powerful electromagnets lined the barrel, ready to accelerate a tungsten rod to 15% of light speed. On the Council observation ship hidden nearby, Sensor Operator Veltash monitored the human vessel with casual interest. The primitive ship was powering up its crude weapons, probably planning to waste ammunition on the abandoned station. Should we warn them that their projectiles cannot penetrate military-grade shielding? Veltash asked his commander. Commander Yexdal dismissed the suggestion with a wave. Let them learn the hard way. Perhaps when they see their weapons are useless, they will finally understand their place. The council officers watched as the Boston's railgun finished charging. Energy readings spiked as the weapon prepared to fire. Veltash noted the electromagnetic signature in his report, classifying it as a primitive kinetic weapon system. Steve gave the firing order. The railgun discharged with a brilliant flash of light. The tungsten projectile streaked across space faster than any council sensor could track. One moment the mining station was there, protected by its energy shields and thick armor plating. The next moment, it simply ceased to exist. The explosion was spectacular. The tungsten rod, moving at 45,000 kilometers per second, struck the station's shields with the force of a small nuclear weapon, but instead of being deflected, the projectile punched through the energy barrier as if it wasn't there. The solid metal rod continued through the station's armor, superstructure, and reactor core without slowing down. The entire facility vanished in a ball of expanding plasma and debris. On the council observation ship, every alarm started screaming at once. Veltash stared at his instruments in disbelief. The readings made no sense. The human projectile had penetrated military-grade shielding without any difficulty. Commander, Veltash stammered, the humans just destroyed a shielded facility with a single shot. Commander Yexdal rushed to the sensor station. The display showed only empty space where the mining station had been. Debris was still expanding outward from the impact point. That's impossible, Yexdal said. Energy shields deflect all projectile weapons. The science is well established. Veltash ran the sensor data through the computer again. Sir, the projectile was moving at 15% of light speed. Our shields are designed to stop objects moving at normal velocities, not relativistic speeds. The implications were staggering. The humans had developed kinetic weapons that could penetrate council defenses. Their crude-looking ships suddenly seemed much more dangerous. Commander Yexdal immediately transmitted a priority report to the High Council. The humans were not as primitive as they appeared. Their weapons technology was actually superior to council systems in certain ways. But when the report reached High Councilor Zethkar, he dismissed it as an anomaly. Surely the humans had just gotten lucky. Perhaps the mining station's shields were malfunctioning, or the facility was older than intelligence reports indicated. Continue monitoring the humans, Zethkar ordered. But do not overreact to a single incident. They are still a primitive species with crude technology. Back on the Boston, Steve and his crew celebrated their successful test. The railgun had performed perfectly, and they had proven that human weapons could defeat alien defenses. Maria was already calculating trajectories for additional targets. Sir, if we can destroy their shields this easily, their ships won't be any harder to kill. Steve nodded grimly. The aliens had ignored humanity's peaceful overtures and treated them as inferiors. Now they would learn that humans didn't back down from a fight. The Boston turned toward the inner system, where council ships were waiting. It was time to deliver a more personal demonstration of human capabilities. High Councilor Zethkar would soon discover that his intelligence reports were dangerously wrong. The humans weren't just another primitive species to be ignored or eliminated. They were the first civilization the Council had encountered that possessed technology capable of challenging their supremacy. The galaxy was about to become a much more dangerous place. War Commander Vexthal of the Krolix hegemony studied the holographic display with growing excitement. The Galactic Council had finally given him permission to deal with the human infestation, and he intended to make it a memorable demonstration of hegemony power. The 47th Assault Fleet was the pride of the Krolix military. 12 heavy cruisers and 4 massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying entire planetary defense networks. The humans had only 8 primitive vessels scattered throughout the system. This would be over quickly. War Commander, reported Fleet Intelligence Officer Kralthex. The human ships are moving to intercept us. They appear to be forming a defensive formation near the 4th planet. Vexathal laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Foolish mammals. They think their crude weapons can challenge the might of the hegemony. Today they will learn why the Council rules the galaxy. Captain Danny Miller watched the approaching alien fleet through the main viewer of the UES Denver. The enemy ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, their hulls gleaming with advanced alloys and bristling with weapon emplacements. Each alien vessel was twice the size of his ship. "Sensor readings, Lieutenant," Danny ordered. Petty Officer Grace Thompson checked her instruments carefully. 12 cruiser-class vessels and 4 dreadnoughts, Captain. Energy signatures are off the charts. These ships are designed for total warfare. Danny felt his stomach tighten. Earth's entire deep space fleet consisted of only 8 ships, and they were all exploration vessels hastily converted for combat. The aliens had brought enough firepower to flatten a planet. Admiral Tony Russell coordinated the human defense from his flagship, the UES Phoenix. His tactical display showed the alien formation approaching at high speed, their weapons already charging for battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Russell," he broadcast on the fleet frequency. "Remember your training. These aliens think we're primitive and weak. Let's prove them wrong." Commander Helen Davis, the Phoenix's weapons officer, ran final checks on their railgun systems. The human ships had been modified with the latest magnetic acceleration technology, but they had never faced weapons as advanced as what the aliens possessed. "Railguns charged and ready, Admiral," Helen reported. "All ships confirm weapons hot." The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. War Commander Vexthal's voice echoed across all communication frequencies, translated by universal language protocols. "Primitive humans, you have trespassed in Council space and ignored lawful orders to withdraw. Surrender immediately or face total destruction. You have 60 seconds to comply." Admiral Russell responded without hesitation. "This is Admiral Russell of the Terran Defense Force. We came here in peace, but you chose to threaten us. We don't surrender to bullies." Vexthal's laughter filled the communication channel. "So be it, all ships open fire. Show these mammals the price of defying the Council." The hegemony fleet unleashed a devastating barrage of plasma fire. Brilliant beams of superheated energy lanced across space, each one capable of vaporizing a small moon. The aliens had enough firepower to sterilize the entire human fleet in seconds. But Admiral Russell had studied human military history carefully. He knew that superior firepower meant nothing if you couldn't hit your targets. "Execute Maneuver 7, Russell ordered. The human ship suddenly vanished in flashes of distorted space. Emergency jump drives, originally designed for escaping black holes and stellar disasters, had been modified for combat use. The alien plasma beams struck empty space where the human fleet had been moments before. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper piloted the fast attack craft UES Falcon as it materialized behind the alien formation. The human ships had jumped to pre-calculated coordinates using the aliens' own confidence against them. "All ships fire at will," Russell commanded. The human railguns spoke as one. Tungsten projectiles, accelerated to incredible velocities, streaked toward the alien fleet. The hegemony ships had powerful energy shields designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons, but they had never encountered kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The first salvo tore through the alien formation like bullets through paper. 3 hegemony cruisers exploded as tungsten rods punched through their shields, armor, and vital systems. The projectiles continued completely through the ships, creating massive exit wounds that vented atmosphere and crew into space. War Commander Vexthal watched in horror as his fleet began dying around him. "Impossible. Our shield should stop any projectile weapon." Fleet Intelligence Officer Kralthex frantically analyzed the human attacks. "War Commander, the human projectiles are moving at 15% of light speed. Our shields cannot deflect objects at relativistic velocities." The human fleet continued its deadly work. Captain Danny Miller watched as his ship's railgun reduced an alien cruiser to scrap metal. The tungsten rod had struck the vessel's reactor section, causing a cascade failure that split the ship in half. "Target the dreadnoughts," Admiral Russell ordered. "Focus fire on their command ships." The Phoenix lined up on Vexthal's flagship, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even Earth's largest vessels. Commander Helen Davis fired a full salvo from the ship's primary railgun battery. 3 tungsten projectiles struck the alien vessel within milliseconds of each other. The hegemony flagship shuddered under the impacts. Its shields flickered and failed as the kinetic energy overwhelmed the generators. Armor plating designed to withstand plasma bombardment cracked and shattered under the relativistic impacts. Vexthal felt his ship dying beneath him. All vessels emergency jump. Retreat to council space immediately. But the human attack had been too swift and decisive. Only 2 alien ships managed to escape into hyperspace. The rest of the 47th Assault Fleet drifted as burning wreckage. Their hulls torn open by weapons the Council had never imagined possible. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper surveyed the battlefield from the Falcon's bridge. 14 alien warships had been reduced to debris in less than 10 minutes. The humans hadn't lost a single vessel. "Admiral, this is Cooper," he reported. "Battlefield secure. No enemy vessels remaining in the system." Admiral Russell felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Humanity had proven its military capabilities beyond any doubt, but the cost would be enormous. The Galactic Council would never again underestimate human determination or ingenuity. War Commander Vexthal's final transmission was intercepted by human monitoring stations. His voice carried the shock and disbelief of a warrior who had discovered that his enemies possessed impossible weapons. "What are these creatures?" Vexthal asked before his ship's reactor went critical. "How did they develop such devastating technology?" The answer was simple, though the aliens would never understand it. Humans had learned to turn their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. While other species had focused on energy manipulation and exotic matter physics, humanity had perfected the ancient art of throwing rocks. The difference was that human rocks moved at nearly the speed of light. News of the hegemony, fleet's destruction would reach the Galactic Council within hours. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Council faced an enemy they couldn't ignore, intimidate, or easily defeat. The galaxy's balance of power had just shifted dramatically, and humanity was no longer asking for permission to join the galactic community. They were demanding recognition as equals, backed by weapons that could enforce their demands. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of receiving the distress signal from the 47th Assault Fleet. High Counselor Zethkar stood before the assembled representatives of 12 species, each one demanding answers about the impossible defeat of their most powerful military force. "The hegemony fleet has been completely destroyed," Zethkar announced, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "Only 2 ships escaped to report what happened. According to their accounts, the humans possess weapons that can penetrate our defensive systems." Council Representative Morden of the Cetari Union rose from his seat. "This is preposterous. No primitive species has ever developed technology superior to Council science. There must be an explanation." Prime Analyst Korthel activated the holographic display, showing the tactical recordings from the surviving hegemony ships. The assembled counselors watched in stunned silence as human railguns tore through their most advanced warships. The human weapons fire solid projectiles at 15% of light speed. Korthel explained, "Our energy shields are designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons, but they cannot stop kinetic impacts at relativistic velocities." The chamber erupted in angry voices as the implications became clear. 3,000 years of technological superiority had been rendered obsolete by creatures the Council had dismissed as primitive mammals. Meanwhile, Admiral Tony Russell stood in the command center of Luna Station, coordinating humanity's response to the escalating crisis. Intelligence reports indicated that multiple Council fleets were mobilizing for a massive assault on human space. "Admiral," reported Captain Sarah Williams from the UES Montana, "we're detecting heavy ship movements throughout Council territory. It looks like they're preparing for total war." Russell studied the tactical display showing alien fleet positions. The Council commanded thousands of ships and had the industrial capacity to build thousands more. Humanity had fewer than 50 vessels, most of them hastily converted civilian craft. "They're going to try to overwhelm us with numbers," Russell concluded. "We need to hit them before they can organize a coordinated assault." Dr. Rachel Coleman, Earth's top strategic analyst, joined the planning session via holographic link. "Admiral, Council psychology reports suggest they view this as an existential threat to their authority. They can't allow humanity to succeed or other species might rebel." Russell nodded grimly. The stakes couldn't be higher. If humanity lost this war, Earth would be destroyed and every human in space would be hunted down and eliminated. "All fleet commanders prepare for Operation Lighthouse," Russell ordered. We're going to visit every council world simultaneously and demonstrate exactly what human weapons can do. The plan was audacious beyond belief. Human ships would jump directly into council home systems and attack their most heavily defended installations. The goal wasn't conquest but psychological warfare. The council needed to understand that no target was beyond human reach. Captain Michael Torres commanded the UES Washington as it dropped out of hyperspace above the Valerian homeworld. The massive planet below was protected by orbital defense platforms and a fleet of council warships. But Torres had his orders. Target the orbital shipyards, he instructed his weapons officer, Lieutenant Colonel Jessica Lee. Full salvo, maximum damage. The Washington's railguns fired in sequence, sending tungsten projectiles toward the alien installations. The orbital platforms tried to intercept the incoming rounds with their point defense systems, but the projectiles were moving too fast for their targeting computers to track. 12 separate explosions lit up the space above the Valerian homeworld as human kinetic weapons destroyed shipyards, defense platforms, and military depots. Each impact released energy equivalent to several nuclear weapons, creating brilliant flashes visible from the planet's surface. High Counselor Zethkar watched the destruction from his palace and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The humans had just attacked the most heavily defended system in council space and suffered no losses in return. Similar attacks were occurring throughout the galaxy. Human ships appeared without warning, destroyed critical installations, and vanished back into hyperspace before council forces could respond. The message was clear: nowhere was safe from human retaliation. Engineer Chief Alan Brooks monitored the railgun systems aboard the UES Texas as it attacked a council military academy. The weapons were performing flawlessly, each shot precisely targeted to cause maximum psychological impact while minimizing civilian casualties. "This is insane," commented his assistant, Petty Officer Grace Thompson. "We're attacking 12 different civilizations simultaneously. How are we even surviving this?" Alan smiled grimly. "Because they can't fight what they can't catch and they can't stop what they can't see coming." The human strategy was working perfectly. Council fleets were powerful but slow to coordinate. By the time they responded to one attack, the human ships had already jumped to new targets. The aliens' own vast territory was working against them. Captain Danny Miller piloted the UES Denver through a daring raid on a council intelligence facility. His ship's railgun destroyed the main computer core, eliminating centuries of accumulated data on species deemed unworthy of contact. "Mission accomplished," Miller reported to Admiral Russell. "The facility is completely offline. They've lost their entire database on primitive species." Russell felt a moment of satisfaction. The Council's arrogance had been built on their belief that they understood and controlled everything in the galaxy. Now that foundation was cracking, but the most important target remained. Admiral Russell himself led the attack on the Council homeworld, jumping the Phoenix directly into orbit above the planet where the Galactic Council met. The sight of a human warship above their most sacred world sent shockwaves throughout Council space. Russell opened communications to every government, military base, and civilian population center in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Russell of the Terran Defense Force," he announced. "For months we tried to communicate with you peacefully. You ignored our signals, dismissed our attempts at diplomacy, and sent your fleets to destroy us. Now you understand that we are not the primitive species you believed us to be." The Phoenix's railguns targeted the massive Council headquarters building, but Russell held his fire. "The threat was enough. We don't want to rule your galaxy or destroy your civilizations," Russell continued. "We want recognition as equals and the right to exist without fear of extinction. The choice is yours. You can continue this war and watch your fleets burn, or you can acknowledge that humanity deserves a place at the council table." High Counselor Zethkar stood in his shattered palace, watching human warships maintain position above 12 different council worlds. His military advisors were reporting massive losses throughout their territory. The hegemony's best fleets had been reduced to scrap metal, and human ships continued to appear wherever they were least expected. "The humans are offering terms," Zethkar's aide reported. "They want immediate recognition as a council species and formal diplomatic relations." Zethkar looked at the tactical display showing the scope of human attacks. In less than 24 hours, A species he had dismissed as primitive had crippled the greatest military force in galactic history. "What choice do we have?" he asked quietly. "They've proven their weapons can reach any target in Council space. If we continue fighting, they'll destroy everything we've built." The age of Council supremacy was ending not with conquest from without, but with the rise of a species that had learned to throw rocks with godlike precision. Humanity had earned their place in galactic civilization through superior firepower and tactical brilliance. The gods of the galaxy had learned they could bleed, and the universe would never be the same. The Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never hosted such a momentous occasion. For 3,000 years, only 12 species had been permitted to address the Council as equals. Today, for the first time in galactic history, a 13th voice would join their ranks. Dr. Rachel Coleman walked through the massive doors of the Council chambers, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. Behind her, Captain Michael Torres and a small honor guard from the UES Washington maintained perfect military bearing. The aliens who had once ignored humanity's peaceful overtures now watched every movement with careful attention. High Counselor Zethkar stood at the central podium, his ceremonial robes unable to hide the defeat in his posture. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 12 species waited in silence. The Krolix delegation was notably smaller than usual, their military having suffered catastrophic losses in the recent conflict. "Honored representatives," Zethkar began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "we gather today to witness an unprecedented event. The species known as humanity has demonstrated capabilities that require our immediate recognition and respect." Ambassador Coleman took her place at the speaker's platform, looking out at the assembled aliens who had shaped galactic politics for millennia. Just months ago, these same beings had refused to acknowledge humanity's existence. Now they hung on every word she spoke. "Members of the Galactic Council," Rachel began, "humanity comes before you not as supplicants seeking charity, but as equals demanding recognition. We tried diplomacy first. We sent peaceful messages for decades offering friendship and cooperation. You chose to ignore us." The chamber remained silent. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, perhaps remembering their earlier dismissive attitudes toward the primitive mammals from the edge of the galaxy. "When diplomacy failed, you sent your fleets to eliminate us," Rachel continued. "The Krolix hegemony brought 16 warships to our space, expecting easy victory over an inferior species. They learned that superior technology is meaningless if it cannot adapt to new threats." War Commander Kextal, the only surviving senior hegemony officer, lowered his head in shame. His people had ruled through military might for centuries, but they had been humbled by creatures who fought with simple kinetic weapons. Admiral Peter Hayes watched the proceedings from the Washington's bridge, maintaining overwatch as human ships held position throughout Council space. His tactical display showed the locations of every major alien fleet, most of them staying carefully distant from human vessels. "The balance of power has shifted permanently," Rachel announced to the Council. "Humanity possesses weapons that can penetrate your defenses and reach any target in the galaxy. But we do not seek conquest or domination. We want partnership and mutual respect." Prime Analyst Korthel studied the human ambassador with newfound appreciation. His intelligence reports had completely underestimated these creatures. They had demonstrated strategic thinking, technological innovation, and tactical brilliance that surpassed many Council species. "What are your terms?" asked Council Representative Morden of the Centauri Union. Rachel activated a holographic display showing the proposed treaty. First, immediate recognition of humanity as the 13th member of the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges thereof. Second, establishment of formal diplomatic relations between Earth and all Council worlds. Third, a mutual non-aggression pact, guaranteeing the security of all member species. The terms were reasonable considering humanity's demonstrated military superiority. High Counselor Zethkar had expected demands for tribute or territorial concessions, but the humans seemed genuinely interested in peaceful coexistence. And in return, Zethkar asked, "Humanity will share our railgun technology with all Council members," Rachel replied. "We believe that mutual defense benefits everyone. Additionally, we offer our services as mediators in interspecies conflicts, given our unique position as newcomers to galactic politics." The offer of shared technology sent murmurs throughout the chamber. The humans were not only demonstrating military superiority, but also diplomatic wisdom. By offering to strengthen Council defenses, they were showing that their goals aligned with galactic stability. Captain Sarah Williams reported from the UES Montana, which was maintaining position above the Valerian homeworld. Ambassador, all Council fleets are maintaining safe distances. No hostile movements detected. The aliens had learned to respect human firepower. Admiral Hayes had positioned his ships to demonstrate that no Council world was beyond the reach of human railguns. But he had also shown restraint by avoiding unnecessary provocations. Council Representative Yixara of the Threnody Collective raised a question that had been troubling many delegates. How did your species develop such advanced kinetic weapons while remaining primitive in other areas? Rachel smiled. Because we approached the problem differently. While you focused on energy manipulation and exotic physics, we perfected the fundamental principles of mass and velocity. Sometimes the simplest solution is also the most effective. The explanation highlighted a crucial difference between human and alien thinking. The Council species had become so focused on advanced technology that they had overlooked the devastating potential of basic physics, applied with precision and scale. Engineer Chief Alan Brooks monitored the weapons systems aboard the UES Texas, one of 6 human ships maintaining a protective formation around the Council homeworld. The railguns remained powered but not targeted, a reminder of human capabilities without direct threat. The treaty is acceptable, High Counselor Zethkar announced after conferring with the other Council representatives. Humanity will be recognized as the 13th member of the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The signing ceremony was conducted with full diplomatic protocols. Each Council representative affixed their species seal to the historic document, officially ending 3 millennia of galactic exclusivity. When Rachel Coleman signed on behalf of humanity, she became the first human to hold formal diplomatic status in galactic government. Captain Danny Miller watched the ceremony from the bridge of the UES Denver, feeling a mixture of pride and amazement. Just months ago, humanity had been alone in the galaxy, ignored by advanced civilizations. Now they sat as equals among the most powerful species in known space. All ships, stand down to diplomatic posture, Admiral Hayes ordered. Maintain current positions but power down weapon systems. We're no longer at war. The transition from conflict to cooperation would take time, but the foundation had been established. Humanity had proven that newcomers could challenge established power structures and win recognition through superior capability rather than ancient tradition. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper piloted the UES Falcon on a ceremonial flyby of the Council homeworld, part of a formation that celebrated the new alliance. The same ships that had terrorized Council fleets now served as symbols of humanity's commitment to galactic peace. Dr. Rachel Coleman concluded her address to the Council with words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Today marks the beginning of a new era. Humanity joins the galactic community not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in building a better future for all intelligent species. The chamber erupted in applause, a sound that represented genuine respect rather than mere diplomacy. The aliens had learned that humans possessed not only devastating weapons, but also the wisdom to use them responsibly. High Counselor Zethkar approached Ambassador Coleman after the ceremony, offering a formal greeting between equals. Your species has taught us valuable lessons about assumptions and underestimation. We look forward to learning more about human perspectives on galactic governance. Rachel accepted the greeting gracefully. Humanity has much to learn from the accumulated wisdom of the Council species. Together we can create a galaxy where all intelligent life has the opportunity to thrive. The rails had been laid across the stars, and there was no going back. Humanity had earned their place in galactic civilization through superior firepower, strategic brilliance, and diplomatic wisdom. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating a species based on their apparent primitiveness. The age of human expansion into the stars had begun, backed by weapons that could enforce respect and tempered by values that sought cooperation over conquest. The 13th seat at the Council table would remain occupied as long as the stars burned, a permanent reminder that even gods could be humbled by creatures who understood the power of simple physics, applied with deadly precision.